It looks like all signs are pointing to this. A player that the Bills splashed the cash on last offseason looks like he might be a cut candidate come training camp. So let's talk about it all right here. Hello everybody, welcome to Bills Digest. I'm your host Anthony Senicar, and it is off-season time, so you know what that means. Training camp is right around the corner, and there are going to be a ton of camp battles, and we got you guys all covered right here. There's only one issue. 72% of you guys who are watching this video right now are not subscribed to the channel, and we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So subscribe, stay in touch, and stay informed at Bills Digest with all your latest Bills news. And like I said, guys, it looks like all these signs are pointing to this happening for a player the Bills splashed the cash on last offseason after having a disappointing start to the season and kind of season as a whole. It looks like Curtis Samuel might be on the chopping block come training camp. A report just came out talking about camp casualties for each team, and it looks like a lot of guys are assuming that Curtis Samuel might be on his way out come October or September, my apologies. Last offseason, the Bills brought in receiver Curtis Samuel on a 3-year, $24 million contract. They hope his versatility would add another dimension to Allen's passing attack. However, after just one underwhelming season in Western New York, Samuel's spot on the 53-man roster is anything but secure. Now, this is very interesting because last offseason, the Bills brought in Curtis Samuel from Washington with hopes of being a star in this system. He was originally on Carolina, where Joe Brady was the offensive coordinator, and Curtis Samuel had a career year in that offense, and the Bills thought, well, Curtis Samuel was a good receiver with a mismatch of quarterbacks. Now when you put him in an offense with Josh Allen, he can only get better from there. What happens? Well, it doesn't happen the way the Bills thought it would. He gets injured during training camp, gets that turf toe, and nags him a lot for the season. Doesn't really develop too much, kind of doesn't find his spot in this offense, and is hurt on and off the field, misses 4 games on the season, and kind of ends up with a very, very disappointing first year on Buffalo. He finishes off the season with 42 targets, 31 receptions, 253 receiving yards, and 1 receiving touchdown, which again is very, very disappointing for the hopes that the Bills had for Curtis Samuel. Looking at the game logs, had a few good games, kind of came on late on the season, especially had a good game against the Broncos with that touchdown. Had a few splashy games against the Jets and Kansas City in the regular season. But if you're looking at the career that he's had, the Bills were banking on being productive with no strong quarterback play, that he would come in and be very, very productive. But he had one of his worst years this season, and I think that the injuries really nagged him. You can tell the speed wasn't really there, couldn't really get his cuts that he wanted on the field. And then when he started to get healthy, he got injured again, and it kind of just snowballed into a very disappointing season as a whole. And now that comes into this offseason and this training camp and this packed receiver room of where does Curtis Samuel fit? This is a very interesting training camp for him because looking at the current Bills receiver room, you got 3 locks right now. You got Keon Coleman, Joshua Palmer, and Khalil Shakir. And they usually roll out with about 5 receivers, 4 real receivers, and 1 guy who can play receiver and is a good special teamer. So that kind of leaves the question of the 4th spot of Curtis Samuel or Elijah Moore, because I think the 5th spot is a battle between Tyrell Shavers and Chenault, both guys who can play receiver and are good special teamers. Shavers played really well at the end of last season, had the big screen touchdown against the Broncos. And that 4th receiver spot between Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore is going to be a very interesting camp battle, because both these guys have the same sort of skill set. Both around 5'10", 5'11", guys who can play the X position, or who can play on the outside, play on the inside and slot, and can even give you some snaps at the running back position. Very good screen guys. guys who are kind of good separators. Elijah Moore has the edge there as he is a phenomenal separator in this league, a top 5 guy. So it's going to be very interesting to see where this camp battle goes. Curtis Samuel gives you more of the bit of the X factor, the Deebo Samuel factor, because he lines up in the backfield, good at screen game, can kind of be a wild card on this offense, where Elijah Moore can kind of give you the same skill set, but has the edge on the receiver aspect of it. Is a very good route runner, a good separator, a guy who's kind of shifty, who can kind of get open for you. So it'll be very interesting to see what the Bills want to do with this 4th receiver spot. Do they give it to the X factor with Curtis Samuel, or do you give it to Elijah Moore, who's the better receiver as a whole? Now, again, money-wise, the Bills are tight money-wise with the cap space, but they can get out of the Curtis Samuel cap hit if they trade him. If they cut him, they still have that cap hit, but if they trade him, it will be very interesting to see what they can do, because if you trade him to a team come the last round of cuts and say, listen, I got Curtis Samuel, I'm going to cut him, but I'd rather not cut him because of the cap hit. If they called the Giants, a team that they've done numerous deals with and guys who have Buffalo connections, and say, listen, 7th round pick or future considerations, and as well, it helps the Giants because they are a team in need of another receiver next to Malik Neighbors. So it'll be interesting to see how this camp battle plays out. I think it's going to be between Elijah Moore and Curtis Samuel for that 4th receiver position. So we'll see how this plays out, and we got all of training camp to see who really gets the edge. This is a massive training camp for both of these guys. But I want to hear from you guys below. Let me know in the comments, who do you guys think is going to win this camp battle? And do you guys even think Curtis Samuel has a spot on this team? As always, guys, leave your comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys down below. And as usual, please subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and every little bit helps, and we appreciate it. And like I said, based off of this, we're going to have a ton of camp battles, and we are going to have you guys all covered right here at Bills Digest for all your latest Bills news all offseason until opening kickoff against the Baltimore Ravens come September. As always, guys, subscribe, stay in touch, stay informed, and go Bills.